"Hi Gordon, just bought a ticket for your shit presentation. See you there." The thing is, we all know what Mark's like, don't we? Don't we? Mark, what are you like? What?
Well, can you believe what you read the Echo?
87.6% of Tosser. It's not even a complete one. But that came from the fickle world of online reviews of hospitality. And I'll come back to Mark and hospitality later, but I just want to quickly mention, if you're a bit of a foodie and you like to listen to podcasts, then listen to Mark's Humans of Hospitality podcast. I hear it's been reviewed 5 stars, hasn't it?
It has. Thanks for that review.
No problem, no problem. So just before we start, I just want to go through some house rules. So please laugh at the right places. It'll really help this go along quite neatly. Don't leave me hanging at the end, so just a round of applause will do very, very fine. If it gets a bit awkward or a bit tense, then random whoops will just do very, very nice. Indeed. Right, this next slide is probably one of the most important in the deck. And it kind of dates back to around the time when I was born, so you need to kind of listen or take some notes if you want. So here goes. My name is Gordon Fong, okay? It's not Wong, Fong or Song or anything like that. It's not Gordon or Gorgon, and it's definitely not Colin. It's Gordon Fong. So if you're going to write about this or tweet this debacle, then please get my name right. That's my LinkedIn summary right there. The bland storyteller. And for all the marketers in the room, it's all about the bland, isn't it? I'm going to talk about some of my businesses along the way. Feel like some kind of stand-up comedian. I used to watch a lot of Steve Jobs videos on presenting before, but thankfully I've grown out of that phase. And really the crux of the talk is nobody teaches us how to be a business owner before we start. We can do MBAs, business studies, but nobody really prepares you for the kind of toil that's ahead. But I thought I could buy a book, learn how to be the complete CEO, and kind of transform myself into this suited and booted, pocket square kind of business leader, but it doesn't work that way, does it? It's not as easy as that. And if anybody wants this book afterwards, then please let me know. You can have it. It talks about total shareholder return and all that rubbish. Okay, this slide is from a business plan we wrote in 1999, the heady days of the dot-com era. And by year 3, we said the plan was to make £18 million before tax. I'll tell you at the end whether we did that or not. Does anybody know where this image has come from? That was taken from the HSBC Bank advert back in the probably early 2000s. And when you go to listen to real business entrepreneurs, like Alex Chisnell's and Sunny Bird's events, is Alex in?
No.
Sunny Bird? Well, he got the money and they bought the tickets, so that's a plus.
Richard Branson, he said he tweeted.
So many of these people, these real entrepreneurs, will talk about when they were a child, you know, they were already wheeling and dealing and doing things, and they had that kind of, either they had the business gene or they developed the business bug back then. But that wasn't my childhood. My childhood was slightly different. And I was a takeaway kid. My parents came from Hong Kong, early 60s, kind of came into Liverpool, Manchester, Birmingham, then went up to Scotland and settled down in the northeast. But also this slide from the 80s was also my childhood. And unfortunately, the kind of impact of that was untold until today. But I don't want to dwell on that image. It's not the best image, but we'll move on to something a bit more fun, which is well, so I wore black to try and like a homage à toi for Steve Jobs, but I've ended up looking more like that wasn't the plan. As if I could look even more. This top image is me and a fellow Southbourne resident called Tony Hughes. We'll talk about Tony later. And that slogan, that little ditty there, Ken Home Flies BA, comes from the Bournemouth Echo readers' comments. Darren Slade, where are you? Darren, what do you think of the Bournemouth Echo's readers and their comments?
Really brave enough to read them.
And that's the thing, if you ever feature in the Echo, do not be quick to send and copy and paste that link to all your friends and family. It will have been slated in those comments, so don't do that. But I just want to give a mention to Darren Slade, from Bournemouth Echo Business Editor for Dorset and Hampshire now, is it a different title? So, I've been in the Echo a few times and didn't need any kind of PR agencies or etc. By just having a coffee and speaking to Darren, he's a really good guy and you need to speak to him. One thing I didn't ask, actually, I should have asked earlier, who's come to the first lunch club? All right, that's good. But you're wondering what the hell's going on. So I must apologise to you first, because there's going to be a few in-jokes. I'm going to mention a few people's names, which you may have heard of, or may not have heard of. But I urge you to speak to those people, those good people, because that's... Actually, I'm going to take that apology back, because that is the whole crux of the You or the Media Network. It's just being around good people, learning from them, and being supported by them. So, yeah, being in a takeaway, washing up and putting those lids on those foil containers. Not those easy to do plastic ones now. We had to have thumbs of steel back in the 80s. It doesn't teach you about business per se, but it does teach you about grafting. And grafting is such a big thing, you have to be capable of before going into business. It's just not an easy ride. But also, the other thing you kind of learn when there's food orders coming and going out is that one small mistake can have massive ramifications further up the chain. Because if somebody's missed an order off, do you hold that order back and delay everybody else? Or do you send the next order out which is ready? And then you pay off some customer who then feeds back to, somebody else gets annoyed. That goes to front of house. They then bring that issue back into the kitchen. The chef's already a bit annoyed and angst already. It's a hot environment. And you kind of realise that you need to get things right, because those small little things do have ramifications. I know it's a slightly odd maybe example, but that's it's one of the things I learned along the way. And if any of you are in line for some big retirement fund or inheritance or kind of redundancy payoff, and you're thinking about getting into the food industry or opening a restaurant, please speak to Mark Cribb, because if he doesn't put you off, then you probably do okay. But it's a tough gig. It's a tough gig. But yeah, so being on the counter back in the 80s, when pubs shut at 11 o'clock on the dot, come 11:05 when they're all piling in, it's not the nicest of environments, as you kind of saw earlier. People have worse for wear, it's a noisy environment. And the kind of thing I've learned from there was all about customer service. How can you cut through the noise, find out what they want, deliver it, and get them back out the door as quickly as possible? And that's one of the things I think I've brought back into the businesses that I'm involved in. And fine well, it's cheaper to keep a customer than it is to acquire a new one. So customer service and the quality of it has to be really, really key when you work in your business. I'm going to relay a story back in the early 80s, actually early 90s. When I left university, I went to work for a company called Mac Connect in Newcastle. And I think that was probably the first wave of digital in the creative sector, because we were one of two companies that sold ISDN cards that fit inside Apple Mac computers to send files at the whopping speed of 128 kilobits per second, which is like at least a tenth, if not a hundredth of the speed you can do now. But these agencies were sending their work files to the clients, to the printers, etc. So, like I said, we were one of two businesses doing that. And Macworld magazine approached us to do a review. And when that came out, we got an absolutely glowing review on our customer service. When I say we, there was only two of us, the MD and me doing the orders, processing the customer support and everything else. So, so that was really, really, really pleasing. And I know our competitor was really, really hacked up with that because they spent a load of money on advertising, and because I actually came down to work with them in 1996. And that's when I first met Rich Burkett from Yamaya. That was the first time. We'll touch on the second time next. So yeah, so that's like I said, it was really pleasing. And customer service is really one of the things you need to be aware of. And then after a while, we started off eMango in actually we launched in 2000. So next year is going to be our 20th birthday, 20th anniversary. So I'm going to organise some kind of gathering, some kind of drinks event, and you're all invited. You're all invited. So we launched in 2000, and I don't know how many other digital agencies, web agencies, are still around from then. I can remember. Red Web come to mind, Appius, but I don't know if anybody knows any other agencies left from there. Matt might know. So maybe three then, maybe three. So we're doing well. Maybe I'm not the worst. Okay. But we started off in Lansdowne before it got digitally fashionable to be up there. But then later on we moved to towards Westbourne. And that's where I bumped into Rich Burkett again, from Yamaya. And that was when it was working for data center hosting, and a long story short, we kind of merged. We took over the ongoing business of the hosting company. And that was the internet in Bournemouth right there. Look at those beautiful Powermac G4s, G3s, lovely things. Like I said, we had the internet in our basement, in our first floor room as well. And I had all of these resources on tap. 2000 was the early days, so I kind of made use of those resources, but not to the best of my ability. But I did come up with something I kind of called the Fong book. So this is from 2001. 2001, that's my poxy little website there, telling people, our friends, social events that are happening, weddings, etc., etc. Had a little forum there for people to, chat and chat about stuff, and then, like I said, organising meetings and so on. And then once the events have happened, then I posted photo albums of weddings and social gatherings and barbecues on the beach, etc. So, that kind of was the phone book before Facebook came around. Now, along the way, I upgraded my website to Joomla, and there was a point in time where if you actually searched for a restaurant, chances were, you would get one of my pages come up, and that was before the advent of TripAdvisor came along. But the main point I'm trying to make is, I'm not saying I could have been an influencer or I wanted to be all of that, but all of these things I could have done a hell of a lot better. All these opportunities, all these resources at hand, but I didn't really make best use of them, and that was the kind of story of my life to that point. But things have changed. 3 a.m. I've been a member, and I know some of you have been members. Some of you will be members if you're starting new businesses or trying to grow them. What 3 a.m. club is where you're lying motionless in bed, trying not to wake your partner, staring at the ceiling, wide-eyed, wondering how you're going to pay salaries, the VAT, PAYE, your suppliers in the next month. That's not an easy thing. But my business partner picks up on that kind of stress because I'm a bit of a worrier. And he'll say, yeah, but what's the worst that can happen? I'll just repeat that. Can't pay the staff. Can't pay the VAT, can't pay the PAYE, can't pay suppliers. And he'd still say, yeah, but what's the worst that can happen? Well, if the staff don't get paid, they might look for jobs elsewhere. If I can't pay my mortgage, I'm going to lose my house. And if you know Angela, she ain't going to be pleased, is she? you say, yeah, go on, but what's the worst that can happen? Well, you can take a shotgun to your head, blow your head off. That's one of the worst things that can happen. Well, that wasn't supposed to be funny. It was serious. Wow, I didn't expect that. But it doesn't have to be like that. It really doesn't have to be like that. I just want everyone to take a few seconds just to look around you and see if you can see a friendly face. So whenever you are at that point in life, then you can call on them. And if you can't see a friendly face, then take my number afterwards, because I know what it's like. Okay? Well, that's just a conversation there.
How do you spell your name again?
I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody. You know, karate is one of those things that I've been good from day one. I literally kick ass. And I did against some big German in Crystal Palace. But it's okay, he was big and he's German. Sorry. I'm just going to set the scene. I'm 18 years old, just left for university, and I'd been there for 3 months. I'm stood there in the final of British University lightweight karate final. So I'm stood there, just waiting for the off. So there's a few more seconds to go. So I'm there, going for the kick, going for the punch, and I think I've scored the point. And I walk back to my line, all cocky and shit. Now the people who know me, who have spoken to me a few times, it's probably not the quality that you associate with me. But this is my area. Yeah, that's my confidence zone. So yeah, I was cocky and shit. So I come back to the line, got awarded the point, got awarded the match. So, you know, within 3 months, you know, 18-year-old away from home, you know, won a gold medal at the British University's Karate Championship. Then I turned round to see my first year, second year, third year teammates. And they were kind of slightly bemused, but they're happy. We won a medal. And then the instructor was there, hey, that's my boy. But I kind of walked up and it was all, yeah, thanks. Right. And that's the thing. This is my confidence zone. Outside the competition area, that's where my kind of lack of confidence zone. And part of me didn't like winning for whatever reason. And it wasn't until later that I kind of worked out why. But then after university, things kind of fizzled out. But I still do karate. It was 40 years, actually next month will be my 40th year since starting karate. And I love it. And I think sometimes you need your thing. Talking about confidence, while I was confident, I didn't have supreme confidence. And luckily I was sat on the same table as Daley Thompson at the Adido pre-conference dinner. And that guy has absolute supreme confidence. Because all that training and all that kind of years and years of preparation, just, I don't know, until you sit next to somebody like that, you can just sense their aura. Is anybody from Adido here? I was going to give Andy a shout out, but I just want to say thank you to Adido for that. Okay, Hayley, come on stage. Right, we're going to hold our breath for 2 minutes, see if we can get there. That does mean you can't gossip for 2 minutes, right? Right, okay. After 3, we're going to hold our breath, okay?
Okay.
1, 2, 1, you can sit down, thanks for I think it's most of us probably would be in trouble if we couldn't breathe for 2 minutes. But Tracy Howes, where are you? Go, Tracy. How many minutes can you hold your breath for?
3.5.
3.5. What about the kind of the top 3 divers in the world? How many minutes can they hold for?
10.5 for the men.
That's amazing.
9 9 for the women.
Yeah. And you can't get to that level without kind of being relaxed, losing your attention, and have this kind of soft focus on the task in hand. And breathing's really, really important. Does anybody remember best training from Ashley Cross? No? Yeah, not around. I was at one of their presentation skills courses, and I didn't ask for my money back, thank you very much. And is there a time delay? And there was at one point the trainer talked about, you know, when you're nervous, the things that you can do, like take a sip of water, go outside for a walk. I didn't say just wash your hands or stick your hands in a basin of cold water just to kind of cool off. But there was something that we kind of disagreed on, and that was how to breathe. So can everyone stand up, please? There's some audience participation. I just want you to place one hand on your chest, one hand on your stomach. And don't do it yet. When I tell you to breathe in, I want you to breathe in through your nose. Try and expand your stomach as if you're making your belt tighten. Don't inflate your chest. Okay? When you breathe out through your mouth, okay? So breathe in through your nose, breathe in. Okay, out through your mouth. And in. And out. Wow, that's like Zen right there. Okay, you can all sit down. Now that's something you can do at home, sitting down. You don't have to stand up. And the thing is, when we're faced with quite tense situations, like a difficult prospect, or or an angry customer, or an awkward HR situations, sometimes you just need to sit down and be quiet. You can't show anything. And if you're getting tense, or if you're maybe reacting to what they're saying, if you start breathing into your chest, puffing up your shoulders, etc., and that's kind of a tell, that's kind of a give. And it could be that they react to that. You know, it's like when fighters square up to each other, they all kind of inflate their chest, but sometimes you just need to keep still, let them do the talking. And that kind of breathing just settles everything down, you become a lot more rooted in that. Thing is, alongside that, for the advanced practitioners in the room, what you can do is just tighten your sphincter every now and again to go with it, because it really does root everything. But no, that was my point. That was my next point. Next time you talk to each other at the next lunch club, you'll be thinking, are you doing that thing? Again, this ability to calm down and relax is it gets more and more important in later life. I did post on Instagram about my blood pressure. It's been going up. I don't think it was for this. I think it's more for just too much of the dry martinis. But what I found was, now that I did my midlife, not crisis, midlife time, NHS check, and they said, your cholesterol's high, your blood pressure's high, you're overweight. But thanks. But to get the blood pressure down, within 1 hour, if I just listen to some music, if you put some vinyl on, that means you've got to listen to it all. If you're on your Spotify, you'd be flicking around. So sometimes just put something on, leave it alone, sit down, put the phone over there somewhere, and just slowly breathe. And then from somewhere quite high, it just went down to somewhere really, really low. And it does work. This next slide is about gut feel. Our business is very, very technical, full of techies. We've had 1 or 2 salespeople along the way. And we've had some people doing marketing, but they weren't marketers at all. They were just people just doing functional stuff. But the thing is, everyone's got an opinion. So if I were to do anything, there'd be comments of, you could have done this, you should have done that, or the problem with that is, etc., etc. And there was little snippets kind of quite stifling at times. But there was one time where, sorry, I'm just going to do my thing. And with one single email campaign that focused on an issue at hand, that imparted some urgency because there was some legislation coming through, and given the credibility of ourselves as a supplier to meet that need, I increased the number of local council clients that we had by 50% in less than 6 months. That previous figure took 3 years with a full-time salesperson in place to do that. So sometimes you just need to get, screw it, just do it. Alex should have been in the room for that. So I'm saying, yeah, sometimes you need to go with your gut feel. But if I were to flip that the other way and say to you, if somebody comes to you with a proposition, or I'm thinking about doing this, if it meets the 90-10 rule, as in 90%, you would do, you're okay with. And if that 10%, if there's no risk of fatality, if there's no risk of them losing all their money, occasionally, be that person that says, I'm 100% behind you. What can I do for you to complete that? Just to change things around. Outside of work, as Justin mentioned, I'm heavily involved in happenings in Southbourne. And there's kind of 3 main things I do. With social media, I really do push the high street, which I call the Sober Mile. And that kind of extends from Folkestone Station all the way to Bistro on the Beach by Southbourne Crossroads. And then people took issue with that, saying it's not a mile, and Folkestone's not in Southbourne. So I thought, if you take a pin, put it in the middle of Southbourne High Street, give it a 1 mile radius, then that's a Sober Mile, and that works. That takes everyone everywhere. So I push, to push the foodie places. I try and do little videos, interviews. It's a little bit fun, but it's, like I said, it's of a certain level. The other thing I do is get involved in community events, organising community events. And that picture there was taken from Frankenfest 2 years ago. It was absolutely freezing on the high street, so we closed it off. There was family, children's rides, food and booze on the high street. It was a really, really good family day out. And that was Doctor and the Medics, the real Doctor and Medics playing their one hit on the high street. And then this year we did the Southbourne Revival. There was a regular event called Shake and Stir, but they postponed for a year. And then with 13 weeks to go, we kind of stepped forward and we absolutely smashed it. With all the feedback from the people coming to us at the park, they said it kind of went back to its smaller roots and they thoroughly enjoyed it. And one of the things I also did, I was an administrator for the Sober Facebook group, Sober being Southbourne. And that's about 14,000 members now. The thing is, I found people don't like it when their posts get moderated. And they sure as hell don't like it if you bar them. I've had people's daughters harangue me on direct message through Messenger saying, why is my dad being banned? Because he's been swearing, posting up sexist pictures and stuff. And then other people saying, well, if you've been banned, find out where they live and go around and knock on their door. And I've had people send me veiled death threats, as in about shallow graves and how they'll find me in one if I don't enable back in. So I decided after the summer just to step back a little bit. And actually, I've got so much a lot more time than before. But I did spend so much time nurturing that group, being positive in that group. And it wasn't this, well, it's definitely not this election, or the last one. It was the one before. And you can imagine social media, Facebook groups, everyone's at it, attacking each other, etc., etc. But with 2 weeks to go, I kind of stepped in and said, look, we've got 2 weeks to go, none of this is helping anybody. If there's no more political posts for 2 weeks, I've got some gifts. I've got some bottles of wine, some vouchers for local businesses, and I will give those out. Whether you have them, or you give them to somebody you think deserves it, or you give it to school fates for their kind of raffle prize. And just by making that one ask of the community, having spent time with them, and hopefully they kind of respect what we try to do, there was absolutely nothing, no political posts for 2 weeks. And I thought that was pretty amazing when the community come together and they kind of believe in the way we try to nurture it. I don't know how it's going to go this year, but I'm not an admin. I'm away from that. I love you, Mark, but I need to talk about my boy, James Fowler from Southbourne. So if you want to talk to a real business entrepreneur, James Fowler, owner of the Larder House, he has a fantastic story. He started off his restaurant, quite small scale, expanded it into the courtyard with a covered area, which means you could sell these fantastic Sunday roasts all year round. Then you expanded to a kind of speakeasy cocktail bar upstairs. And then on another floor, there's even a tiki bar, which Hayley knows all about. It only fits about 10 people. Yeah, that's an amazing story in itself. But then he opened up a new restaurant called Terroir Tapas down the road, all based on sustainability, and it's just about to open a cheese and charcuterie shop on the same high street. Now for me, you know, that's a brilliant way to expand, because you can literally stand on the road and look over all three of his businesses. And if you need to send some members of staff from one place to another because it gets busy, that's so much easier to manage than driving around 30, 40 miles dealing with issues. So you can see the face of pure joy that I have around this guy. And that's probably the reason for my high blood pressure as well. And this thing here, if you ever go up to the library, that's my private drinks box. There's nothing in it at the minute, I don't think. But you might see it. You might see it later. So that's talked about my work and what I do in my social life. I'm going to next talk about some seminal moments that's happened in my life. And it's basically come from the people in this network. Is Dan in today?
No, couldn't make it.
Dan did a talk over at the O2, not arena, the O2 thing in Boscombe, part of the Digital Innovation Show a few years back. And his talk was about his bipolar, his depression, and how he dealt with it. And it was later on in the day. And you know what it's like when it's a free conference. You kind of had your lunch, you kind of feel tired, you slope off and go back and do your work. But there was something inside me that compelled me to, actually, you know what? I'm normally the one sitting in the back. I need to get out to the front, basically because of what Dan was going to cover. And he needed to see some friendly faces. So I worked my way up to the front and sat there, listened to Dan's talk. And that was when I had a moment of clarity. That it's okay to be honest. Maybe it's even brutally honest. And it's okay to be vulnerable as well, if you want to get a closer connection with people. You know, how many times have we talked to people? Oh, how's business? How's business? Oh, great, we're smashing it, best quarter ever. And you kind of know it's not real. But if you were honest and saying, it's okay, but it's a bit slow in this area, maybe it's the other person open up as well and tell you, oh, actually, that's because of X, Y, and Z, or, you know, we're having the same thing. So sometimes that facade is just, it's not needed. It's not needed. Another thing that really had an impact on my life is Matt Desmia's Silicon Beach events. The first one I went to was sadly Matt's dad's. Hopefully it's not connected. Hopefully it's not connected. Is there some rumours it might come back? You've got the stage? There's no live scoop here?
No.
Okay, I'll let you off the... But yeah, it meant a lot to me going to that first one. But this still photograph is taken from Silicon Beach in London that happened shortly after. And I've titled it, I don't know if you can read that, Matt, can you read that?
No?
Matt's Difficult Last Album.
Oh, yeah.
Which it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Now Matt got a lot of stick for that. Because all of the speakers were aged 25 and under. And even some of the speakers said they had no support from their employers. And I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. Because I sat in the crowd, looking up, thinking, wow, those people are young. And those people are so confident. And I thought, you know, maybe one day I'll have the confidence to stand up on stage myself and do this. But one of the talks that made an impact was somebody did a talk about the Generation Snowflake. And she basically said, it's okay to be a snowflake, because that means we give a fuck, as opposed to everybody beating down on them. And I thought, actually, that's quite powerful for that person to stand up and say that. And it was at the Silicon Beach event that I heard David McQueen speak. When he came out on stage, he asked the audience, you know, what can you say? Say a few words about me, what comes to mind? So people were saying, oh, you've got nice shoes, or you look fit, do you work out, are you quite stylish? But there was this voice in the back of my head saying, go on, what? Go on, why don't you say you was well black, innit? The thing is, the next sentence, he said, nobody's talked about my dark hue. So I was right. I had that lack of confidence. When I should have said it, it would have been like comedy banter points forever. But also he talked about his life back in the 80s. And I kind of thought, looked around, there's probably about 5 people maybe that could connect to that. Then I looked around at the ages and the diversity and I thought, actually, maybe I'm the only person in the room that could really, really connect to that. And I kind of had another moment of clarity, as in, you know, this has been my biggest asset, and I've not used it in my first 15 years of business. And I guess that was the impact of that 80s slide. Is Trisha in the room? Hi Trisha. Just for you.
Oh, that's nice.
Impostor Syndrome. No business talk is complete without a slide on impostor syndrome. And I guess what was his name? I forgot his name. So yeah, so when he was talking through it, I thought, all right, yeah, I get it now. Not being out in front. Something I didn't say about eMango when we first started was, within the first 12 months, a co-founder had moved on for various reasons. And suddenly, because I was a tech person, I was hoping to have a life of wires and cables and putting servers up and etc. And then suddenly it's a case of, there you go, Gordon, you're the MD now, you're the front of the business. And I thought, oh, this is great, isn't it? So yeah, so I spent 15 years just not using my biggest asset, thinking I'm an imposter. But to be honest, we're all winging it, aren't we? Yeah, we're all winging it. So once I realised that, you know, there was no hiding. And this is a homage to Ray Kelvin. Ted Baker? Too early? Mark? Too soon? So yeah, so I got the bus with that big flowery shirt on. So I was kind of halfway on my journey of kind of being a bit more relaxed and chill. But it takes some doing getting on the bus at 8 o'clock in the morning with that kind of shirt, doesn't it? And that's pictures taken up from the Library of Liquor cocktail bar, so I might see you up there later. So with that newfound kind of confidence, I thought, you know, for the business to be seen, I need to get out more. And I needed to get into the back of the Dorset Chambers magazine, because I used to think, oh, look at all those doofers in the back. I need to get in there. So here, it's me and Susanna. Hi, Susanna. There's me and Susanna there at the Italian village. So, and then there's these other pictures from articles that Darren Slater done from the Echo. It's quite ironic, it says going unnoticed there. But yeah, I just kind of went out more to the Chambers events, but the kind of Chambers events where they're pushing business cards into your hand, asking you when your next insurance is due, it's like, oh, it's not entirely for me. But I did find a comfortable place in the You Are the Media lunch club. And Mark will tell you, when I first started coming along, I literally sat at the back thinking, I found out here, there's all these creative people, there's top marketers, oh, look at them all. And there's me, techie at the back, but you know, I've literally made my way up to the front now. And that's Timo there. Can you, that's your luxurious hair. I'm not jealous, because I used to have hair like that. But no, but the lunch clubs and the You Are the Media Network has been a real big influence on my life, and that's given me the confidence to stand here on stage. The first conference, Mark Schaefer did his talk, and Mark Schaefer is such a lovely speaker, very measured, very slow. You kind of, even though it was the end of the day, everyone was hanging on his word. And for the months leading up to the conference, people were coming up to me in the street saying, oh, are you Golden Fong? All right, yeah. I like what you do with Facebook and etc. And there was one time, you know, this was along the street and randomly on the beach, there was one time in Boscombe, this big black SUV pulled up alongside me on the path. The window came, and this guy in a black uniform, black peaked hat said, thanks for the website, and then drove off. That was a bit random. He's from the Salvation Army, and obviously it must have been related to the Sobo Facebook page. But it was through Mark's speech that I did have a moment of clarity. And that was, you don't have to be famous, but you can be known for what you do. And I kind of connected, okay, that's why people keep on coming up to me, because by just doing things in the community, people get to know you. And Mark came back again earlier this year to promote his book, The Marketing Rebellion, subtitles, The Most Human Business Wins. And that's all about building trusted relationships from the business or organisation to your customers and clients. And I think if you have a client base that all believe in the same thing, then you build this community up. You build up this kind of sense of belonging. And from understanding this, the word to belong, kind of gave me a moment of clarity. Because I finally understood what home means. And I finally understood what it means to belong. Because if you think back to that 80s slide, there were plenty of people willing to tell me this was not my home. And I didn't belong. So that was a big revelation. But when you find home, such a meaningful thing. My younger brother got told to go back to where he came from in a school classroom. And you might think, well, that's just kids being kids. Or that's school playground banter. But let me tell you, that was the teacher. This was the 80s, you must remember. And it took a long time to get over that, as you can imagine. For an early teen or a late teenager, that has a big impact. Like I said, that's been untold. Until today, when I'm telling 110 people. But this slide looks the simplest. It was the hardest one to go through. Last month, I was out in Southbourne along the Sobo Mile with some group of people that actually first met when I organised another pub crawl through the Sobo Facebook group, and they've become great friends. So social media has its real positives. So I kind of tweeted images from being down at pubs, etc., etc. And the next day, Timo Peach posted this reply, and he says, I confess, I still actively look forward to wandering up to the Grove every day for something, and every night out on my local high street is a top one. Can't figure why I like it so much. As a hood, he means neighbourhood. But something feels good to me. Can't figure why I like it quite so much. Timo, that's because it's your home. It's not somewhere where you live, highly transactional, you just move around. But when you find home, it's totally different. It's something really special.
Gordon, somebody said to me the other day, a mate of mine who came down and visited, walking around low in the high street, come down from Reading. He just said, mate, you're Southbourne and bred.
Yeah, that's good one. So, what next? Things I don't want to grow and scale my businesses. I've got an eye on retirement, because I want to live Jake Moore's lifestyle, were you, Jake? Because if you look at his Instagram feed, he's semi-retired already. So I want a piece of action. But it is true, I am looking forward to that path to retirement and what I can do in business to get there in a sustainable way, but also something that contributes to my home now. Bournemouth, Dorset is my home. What we've done recently is we've opened up a new data centre facility at the Dorset Innovation Park in Wall. So we moved out there, learning what it's like to be a rural business out there, but also in Bournemouth. I wish I could have announced it, but we had 250 objections to the planning, so that didn't happen. But this is with the Talbot Village Trust, who own the land near the university, the two universities. There's this plan for a digital village, the Talbot Digital Village. And they wanted to build a kind of innovation centre, incubator kind of space. And they wanted us to be the anchor tenant for that location. And really that's only come from stepping forward into the limelight, as I said, and just saying the right things about being a Bournemouth business, loving being in Bournemouth and trying to do something for the economy. So all of that has just come through stepping forward and being seen. Unfortunately, that got rejected at planning stage, but hopefully they'll go back and it'll come off in the end. The thing is, the reason why we wanted to be part of those two innovation centres is because we wanted to literally connect both of them with 10 gig fibres, 100 gig fibres, and build the infrastructure, the technology infrastructure for Dorset to win as a county. There's all these business, we talk about Bournemouth, BCP a lot, but there's a whole raft of businesses, successful businesses out there in rural Dorset, technical engineering firms and so on, that we need to try and connect. We had the creative sector shouting about them. Imagine how better they will be. And that's what I want to do, be involved and contribute to where we live. Now, did I hit that 3-year number? That big question. Right, before I tell you, let me, this might seem a strange slide, but let me talk about Damien. Actually, first, there's nobody from Mr. Lee's Noodles here. Okay, first question. Which one of you out there in agency land came up with that logo? Which one of you went into Damien's room and went, Mr. Reed! Thankfully, he's changed that now, he's changed that. There's been videos as well. Seriously, seriously. I first heard Damien speak, it was actually next door at Matt's and Mark's Once Upon a Time event. And for me, it was kind of, oh wow, there's a real Chinese business entrepreneur on the stage. And we don't get many role models. When I say we, I don't mean you, I mean we. Apart from Ken Hom, Jackie Chan, and all these. So it was really interesting to listen to him speak. And then as Mark was closing off, he asked the audience for, were there any questions? Me being back in my kind of shy stage, I was kind of, because I wanted to ask about that bloody logo, didn't I? Got away with that. But the thing is, coming back to what success means. Damien's doing really well. I think if you follow his social media feeds and the news articles, he's everywhere. He's doing really well as a business. But this is his third fight against cancer. And I think sometimes we need to reframe what success means. But he's doing both. He's smashing it. There's always needs a conclusion slide, but I don't know what conclusions you can draw. Maybe you can tell me later. But I kind of did a quick summary here. Slowly, I know I shouldn't read through slides, but this is pretty bad, isn't it? So yeah, beware the 3 M's. Try and look for the people around you that you can count on. If there are things holding you back, like I said, it took me kind of 15 years to understand what was holding me back. But delve deep and don't be scared to tackle it. Find your tribe. Hang out with good people. I mean, like I said, this group has been absolutely phenomenal for me. Yeah, be selfish. For me, it's karate. Sometimes I go away to meet other people to do karate by myself, not with my wife or family and so on. So I think it's important to be selfish. You might think outside of work, I spend time with the family. I think then again, spend time just for you. I think that's really, really important. And breathe. Breathing is important. If you don't breathe, you die. But when I was doing this slide, somebody posted up an article on LinkedIn which actually summarised it even better than what I could have done. And really, it's all about being resilient. And I had thought about doing a talk one day, because I look up to all the young business people that I see, 20-something-year-olds, doing really, really well. And I think, if I were ever to do a talk, what could I teach them? Because they're smashing it. They've grown businesses with 30-odd people, buying buildings, etc. What can I teach them? But the word resilience and being resilient came to mind. And I didn't really know whether you could teach it. But this person came up with these top 4 things. You're having a greater purpose, that even though you're having a bad day, you think, actually, I'm doing this because I want you to be able to do this other thing. Yeah, be the eternal optimist. It's far too easy just to have those negative moments all the time. Always try and see the good in things. And at times, sometimes I'm surrounded by people who just kind of say negative things, and it kind of just drags me down. I can just feel my energy levels tipping. So it's important to be positive. Yeah, connect with people. I think it's important. Like I said, part of a group of like-minded people, strong people as well. And nurture yourself. Take that time to relax and look after yourself. Hayley, can you read that out for me, please?
All of it?
All of it, please.
Change is not easy and it's not a straight line. We need the right mindset, tools and support to help us through difficult situations. We will win fights and we will lose fights, but we cannot lose ourselves. I urge everyone, but particularly young people, to take care of yourselves because we need you to drive change and make tomorrow better.
Thank you, Hayley. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Right.
The key points there is about the young people and a better tomorrow. So regardless of what generation thinks about the snowflake generation, millennials, immigrants, etc., etc., for us to have a better tomorrow, we need, as businesses owners ourselves, nurture the next generation. Because we don't, who's going to look after us when we're rocking back and forth in the pool of our human mess? Now, Mark's been a great help in preparing me for this talk. And he kind of said, Gordon, you need to add value in your talk. Add value? What kind of marketing BS is that? I don't get it. No, you need to give them some nuggets. What do you mean by nuggets? Gordon, you need to give them some takeaways. And I thought, a bit racist, isn't it? Pouring my soul on there, it's some takeaways. Anyway, here's my takeaways for today. Go for the big spring roll, not those popsy vegetarian ones, okay? Either chili and salt squid or spare ribs, not both. That's a full part. Unless you're feeding 25. And Singapore noodles. A bit of carbs, a bit of spice and everything nice. So if they can't do those 3 correctly, then don't go back. And this isn't my last slide. That's not me, that's my even younger brother. So I've got some apologies to make. I'm sorry I haven't shown you how to scale your business. I'm sorry I haven't shown you this top 16.5 ways to triple the value of your business in 3 years. And I'm sorry I haven't been a case study in how somebody has successfully grown their business, because I didn't meet that target. Successfully grown the business and sold it for millions. But then again, this has been the worst business entrepreneur presentation ever. Thank you, everyone.
Elegant use of the term stinkter. Ladies and gents, once again, Gordon Fong. That's it? No, that's not it. Is everyone rushing off? Is everyone going to the bar for this?
Yeah.
Sweet. What's next? Is everyone ready to win a prize? Well, not everyone's going to win a prize. How many are there, Mark? How many awards are there?
6.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Masters.
Oh, that was good. We okay for time? I want to. Everyone okay? We're comfortable. I know it's coming up to 10 to 2. John, do you want to plug your okay? Right. One more, just very briefly. Everyone okay for time? I know we normally finish around about 1:45, and then we all kind of go home. I've made this was a special one that we've all gathered together. What we're going to do in a minute, we've got our end of year awards. Please, it's not going to be meandering into 4 o'clock. Are we okay for another 20 minutes or so? Is everyone all right? Yeah, I know we're kind of restless. So this is my whole point. One thing I wanted to show, to prove to us today, the reason I wasn't here on stage is that I wanted to show the people that as the You and the Media community is growing, it doesn't need me. It doesn't need me always to be the person at the front of the stage. There are people, such as what Justin has proved today, but it's all about the people that are part of it, and very much related to Gordon's talk. Because all this stuff, right, it's just an empty shell. All this stuff that we see is just an empty shell. We got this space here at Shelley Theatre, but all we do is that we fill it with noise and with all these food and conversation and